Etepu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Huru Nefer. This is Kasank Keperu with another exciting video for you. And in this video, I want to talk about the social media addiction. But before I do that, I want you to hit the like button on this page. And if this is your first time to my channel, hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live and when I upload recorded videos. Lastly, if you want to know more about my spiritual teachings, you can scroll down below, click on any one of the ebooks, download them today. It's totally free and start reading. However, if you want to follow that rabbit down the rabbit hole, because he's running from the ferrets, you can become a Patreon supporter for as little as $1, $2, $5 per month. It's up to you, and you can cancel at any time. You'll get exclusive access to instructional videos on the esoteric, videos that will teach you how to summon spirits, how to do a money ritual, how to do self-hypnosis to curb overeating and any type of drug addiction and social media addiction. Videos that will teach you how to, well, we have a ton of stuff. I'm trying to think of a really, really good one. Well, let's say it this way. If you are a SARE level supporter, you'll get all your Oracle readings for free. So become a Patreon supporter. You can cancel at any time. And share this video with family and friends so we can get the revolution started. So Haru Nefer, may Buddha bless you, Grand Rising, on this early Sunday morning. You know, I get up early every morning and try to do some meditations, because that's the best time to program your spirit, is early in the morning. And it actually, when we see the sun rising and your body biologically, if you track the occurrences of your body over time, which is called chronobiology, you'll know that you're more receptive to impressions early in the morning, so it's easy to program you. And then we know, like the CIA and others that were involved in MK Ultra would use sleep deprivation as a way to program you. But I digress. So I want to talk a little bit about this whole thing about the social media frenzy. Okay. Oh, Grand Rising, Nectar. Thank you. Grand Rising to you. It is taking on a form that is really, really strange. And I'm sorry if I'm, not getting my words out, because I'm still kind of pondering it, because there's such a proliferation of information on social media. Let's specifically start with the African American community, or ADOS, or FBA, whatever you want to call them. When I first got on the internet and started making my video, people called it conspiracy theory videos, right? And I was doing them in my office at the time, which is, you can go back and look at those. And I saw Black people getting on the internet and making channels and speaking out about things. And I thought that this was great. This was wonderful. However, cut to present day, and it has taken on an entirely different form than I expected. I had a really good mentor who talked about how when Black people are impoverished or in poverty, they will do extreme things, and they will seek coping mechanisms. And what the internet for Black people has become today is a coping mechanism. So what do I mean by that? It is the same way we have the Black church is a coping mechanism for poverty, because most of churches, regardless of color, prey on the weak and disenfranchised. We saw this with Jim Jones talking about how his church would be for all colors, all people. And not that it wasn't that, but that is just a way to basically increase himself monetarily. And a lot of people have come along on social media who have done just that, taking advantage of Black people who are not in a position or who don't have much wealth, not in a position to donate and so forth. But they give their last dollar sometimes to these pimp pastor ministers, or we used to call televangelists. But what I'm seeing now is something very, very disturbing. And that is this proliferation of channels by African-American males and females. Just this saturation. And they all are on the same theme, same thing. Now, I talked about this in the previous video I did, whereas in terms of filmmaking, we can see how Black filmmakers are just making films about love stories, dysfunctional relationships. Just that's all they're pumping out. And the only ones that are doing anything different are the Nigerian filmmakers who are doing really, really creative and groundbreaking stuff with almost no money. But here in the United States, what we continually see is these filmmakers who are just pumping out love stories. It's ridiculous. And when I went to talk to some of the distributors, I'm talking mainstream distributors, they were like, no more. We have enough. We don't want any more dysfunctional love stories. Yet we keep pumping them out. So it's falling on deaf ears. And contrary to what the market demands, we're still pumping out dysfunctional love stories. I saw another one released the other day, and I wasn't going to go to the screening. I'm like, I'm done with this. But this is because it's a reflection of our experience. Now, our experience is just more than dysfunctional love stories, much more. But it seems that that's the only thing we want to focus on. And the reason being is because we are not early adopters. We are not pioneers, and we have not become, and we are not innovators, is what I'm trying to say. However, when we see someone make it, then we all jump on the bandwagon. And then what we do is we saturate the market. This is the case with social media. We're blanketing the internet with these channels that we're creating. Yet these channels are all the same thing. It's an individual sitting in his or her living room or basement talking about entertainment and sports. And that's all it's focused on. And then we have a specialized niche that goes into Black issues as it pertains to so-called white supremacy and racism. But the majority of which is talking about entertainment. Now, when Kevin Samuels came out, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he was a, a style coach, image consultant. He turned his channel into a channel that would give advice for men and women. He originally started giving advice for men, and that wasn't very popular. Then he started giving advice for women. And then the channel took off to over 1 million subscribers. Then suddenly everybody else decided to do dating advice to saturate the market, to do what he did. And then people started hating him. And that's a whole different subject matter, a whole different video about once you have succeeded, the hate that you get. So when he passed on, he passed recently, they were looking for the next Kevin Samuels. So everybody was doing their channels, and we had Fresh and Fit. We had all these other channels, but there was something missing from all of this. Something very, very important. And I'm going to tell you what that is now. You see, when I first started the internet, when I started on the internet, I was building websites and things of that nature. And I saw it as the perfect vehicle for African Americans to get together, organize, and form modes of communication around racism and oppression. And much to my surprise, it went the opposite direction. Instead of us organizing and taking racism head on, we started doing channels on entertainment and sports. And then the channels that formed that niche market that talked about oppression and racism did nothing but talk. There was no organizing, no communication on how to take action, appropriate action to end racism. It was more reactive than proactive. And this really saddened me. And this is the case today. The majority of channels that are on the web by us are about tackling entertainment issues and dysfunctional relationship issues. I'm seeing more dysfunctional relationship issues surpass the entertainment issues. And it's gotten to the point of where it's sickening to see this. But it makes sense. You see, when I went to the great Oracle of Tahuti and asked the Oracle about it, the Oracle talked about how we're doing wrong and how it needs to be corrected. But I understand what we're doing, but it doesn't make it right. You see, we're using the internet as a coping mechanism to voice our displeasure with the system. And that's good, that's okay. But as a coping mechanism, it's inhibiting you from taking action. If you were in a paralysis of analysis and forever overanalyzing the problem and never taking action, then what good is this platform? And the same thing with dysfunctional relationships. We know what the problem is, but yet every channel pretends not to understand the problem. And with every new broadcast begins anew, tackling the same issue, same problem, with no direct measure of action. But again, it's a coping mechanism. And then we have the grifters who take advantage of people by saying, you know, I'll set up a consultation with you and I'm a dating coach, or I'm this, I'm that. And some are really good dating coaches. Some give really good advice. But like the Black church and the Black community, and excuse me, the liquor stores, it's all meant to be a coping mechanism. And I remember my parents telling me about when they grew up, and specifically me going, you know, me living through the 70s and seeing how the adults, I was just a child, but I was very perceptive. The adults would go to the bars, the little hangout pubs, to talk, to drink, to play cards, play pool. And I knew, even as a child, that this was a coping mechanism. This was their way to handle racism in the midst of them feeling powerless to do anything about the current system. Now, in this modern age of where we don't need those pubs, those pool halls, and things of that nature. And these were some rinky-dinky places, by the way. We have platforms like Clubhouse where everybody can get on there at the same time and talk to each other and really socialize. And we have the metaverse coming out. But we still are not taking action. And I'm sorry to say that of all these channels I've seen, not one gives advice on going out there and tackling head on white supremacy or tackling head on the system. And what I mean by giving advice, I mean giving advice in an intelligent way and not just stirring up dissent, stirring up violence and anger. No, we don't want to do that. But we're lost. You see, there are major companies that have done psychological studies of us, one of which is the tobacco industry. They really have their finger on the pulse of Black America. They understand us. And one of the things they issued in one of their reports is that we have low self-esteem. And coincidentally, a lot of the Hollywood stars have low self-esteem. And they make up for it by being in the entertainment industry. So we make up for our own low self-esteem, which has been created and supported by white supremacy. This is not something just indigenous to us. We weren't born with low self-esteem. This is something due epigenetics created this within us. So instead of seeking therapy to deal with this low self-esteem, we use the social media platforms to address it. As I said before, back in the 70s, we used the little holes in the walls, the pubs, the pool halls, and things of that nature to deal with it. But now we're looking for social media to validate who we are. And those subscribers to our channel treat us like stars, celebrities. And it helps us with our low self-esteem. Sometimes it does the exact opposite because we feed off of it. See, this great invention of the internet could have been used by us as a means and method of organizing and communication and forming subgroups or incels, whatever you want to call them, to fight white supremacy. But we haven't used it for that purpose. I remember when Obama was running for president, his first term, they attributed his victory due to him galvanizing social media, using the young people to get the word out about his campaign on social media. So when I look at that, and I actually studied his social media plan, why couldn't we adopt something like that for racism and oppression? I've often said this, that our plight of being oppressed in this country is not, getting out of it is not rocket science. We know what we have to do in a concerted effort because the people represent a majority of the population. And that power is with us, but we don't realize that the 1% controls the 99%. So if we galvanize that 99%, the ruling elite could not take control. Racism will disappear overnight. But the problem is we're escaping the problem. We're going around it. We're not going at it head on. We're not coming up with solutions and plans. I remember I wrote a whole plan to end racism. I remember the Nation of Islam not 2 years ago came out with a plan for Black America to end racism and end economic deprivation. And I read through that and I was inspired to write mine. But what good is that plan if no one takes action? And that is what has occurred. We're forever talking about the problem, but doing nothing to solve it. So therefore, we have become the problem. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And we have become that. We're so caught up in getting exposure on social media to feed our egos that we have neglected the real means and methods of liberating ourselves that are right in front of us, that are easily accessible. We could turn this thing over overnight, but we're not doing it. We're overanalyzing the problem, and we keep talking about it, spinning our wheels. When the solution is standing right next to us going, hello, I'm here. If you just do this, we could end this thing, but we're not. In fact, the ruling elite uses social media against us to put out lies and propaganda to get us to actually support oppression and white supremacy. And it has worked beautifully to the point where you have other groups, feminists, the alphabet community, sideline us to get their rights, their freedoms. And we have supported it. We have dropped the ball, let go of our own issues and concerns to support those other issues, because we're now told that we can identify with that, get privileges as we identify with that. Well, if we identify with our heritage of ADOS, FBA, or African Americans, we'll get nothing, which is a lie. So we identify as everything other than who we should be identifying as. We don't want to be known as Black, so we'll call ourselves Democrat or Republican, conservative or liberal, artist, musician, what have you. When we could use this internet, we could use our platforms to organize, to defeat racism and white supremacy, instead of talking about the problem. The education period is over. The research and development period is over. We have accumulated enough facts and data to understand the problem of white supremacy from a global perspective. So why haven't we taken action? Because we keep revisiting the problem. We keep talking about the problem over and over and over. How many times have we talked about police violence? But tell me, what action have we taken? Oh, we've supported a crooked organization called Black Lives Matter, who took the money and ran. But why are we supporting organizations when we should be starting our own organizations? Do you see what I mean? Oh, some of us support the Nation of Islam that doesn't do anything for us, but talk. We support individuals out there that say they're going to build a Black school and end up taking the money and spending the money on cocaine and prostitutes. And we give this money to these individuals because we don't want to do the work ourselves. We don't want to get our hands dirty. And it's interesting that when I talk to families and people, individuals, I don't see a consistent ideology that frames our liberation and independence. I don't see it. Oh, I see this very warped ideology, which we call Black nationalism, which is nothing more than white supremacy turned upside down, where it discriminates against its own people. Where it actively and aggressively goes after its own people to label them and cause infighting. A real movement has to be inclusive. And a real movement doesn't require the masses to be on board. I don't have to work with you. I don't need your permission. I can start the movement on my own, and those who are like mine can come along. But the most important thing is we all start the movement. We all get up off our butts, stop making videos, and start organizing. Form an LLC for Black Liberation Company. Stop fighting each other over splitting hairs, ideological differences. Those are not important as long as we agree on the bigger picture that we all are oppressed on a global level and need liberation. Did you know that the majority of people on this planet are people of color? And that white people represent the minority? Yet they're in control on a global level? How is that even possible? Now, I can go into the details of that, but that's for another video. So what I'm telling you is the masses are subdued in a state of slumber. It is like the 10th hexagram of the I Ching. Go research it. The great oracle is called the 10th hexagram of the I Ching, which is called conduct. And it gives you a type of metaphor. It talks about a mouse crawling on the tiger's or the lion's tail. And the mouse represents no greater threat to this tiger. It's insignificant. But if the mouse is not careful in how it steps and what it does, it will aggravate the tiger and awaken it. We are the tigers. And this mouse known as white supremacy has been crawling up our butts and annoying us. But we have not done anything. We are a force unto ourselves. But because we are caught up in fighting one another, vying for crumbs and positions of power in front of the camera. See, these people are brilliant in their strategy. You know, Caesar, I'm just paraphrasing, was saying, give them dance and give them bread and they'll never rebel. Give them entertainment, give them food, and they'll never rebel. Something to that effect. So they have given us the rap industry. They have given us sports. And the rappers make it rain on the so-called bitches. And the sports figures go and spend all their money to their 3 or 4 baby mamas. Next thing you know, they're broke. Keeping us distracted and not looking at what we need to be doing. We're way off course. We are way off course. We need immediate course correction. We need therapy. Because these coping mechanisms, the Black church, the liquor store, social media is only a quick fix. It will never free us truly from the matrix. The rappers think that if they make it, they can get out the matrix. The sports figures think they actually think they're out of the matrix when they're not. You remember that scene in the Matrix where he gave the guy some steak, filet mignon, and the guy would say, you know, my mind is telling me that this is good, but I know it's not real. But it sure does taste real. Ignorance is bliss. That's what we are doing. We're eating that filet mignon thinking it's real, and it tastes so good. But we're not looking at the fact that we're still caught in the matrix. Remember what he said too? He says, when you put me back in the matrix, I want to be somebody famous. I think he said like an artist or something. And he wants to be wealthy. And they were like, sure, anything you want. But he would still be in the matrix. Don't you see that your social media fame is that steak that tastes so good, but you're still trapped? You can get out of this. Stop depending on these coping mechanisms. No preacher, no liquor store, no social media channel is going to make you happy, is going to bring you out of the matrix. It's not. Stand for something. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Take action. Now, I know we all live busy lives. You're like, I don't have time to do that. Well, you have time to make broadcasts, don't you? I practice incremental progress, is what I call it. Meaning every day, I just do a little something towards my goal. Because if I start putting down objectives for big things every day, I know I'll never get it done. So I put little things, like for example, instead of like saying I'll clean my entire living room this day, I just section it off. I'll say, well, today I'll clean this section and tomorrow this section. And what I end up doing is when I start, I end up cleaning the entire living room. It's just a way of tricking the mind and giving the mind bite-sized things to digest so that you won't be feeling overwhelmed by the task ahead of you. So give yourself just a little objective to end white supremacy today or tomorrow, a little thing. And then take action on that one little thing. And then the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And to your surprise, by the end of the year, racism and oppression is gone. If everyone just took those micro steps. That's how you get programs mentally. The media, Hollywood, doesn't hit you over the head with a message all at once and thinks that you're going to accept the program. It gives it to you in bite size. So you can digest them. So that you don't know that it's detrimental to you. If you drink a cup of dirty water, you're going to puke it up because it's dirty. But if you take little sips, your body becomes accustomed to it, and the longer you sip, the less disgusting it tastes. And before you know it, you're drinking the whole glass. And you go, that wasn't bad. My person doesn't like guacamole. But if I eat it in little bite sizes, it won't be so bad. But if you put a chunk of that on a tablespoon and I taste it, I'm going to spit it out. That's how we have to fight this system, micro steps. That's how the system does it to us, programs us. David Icke called it the totalitarian tiptoe. So I want all of us to think about this message. Think about what you can do and what you should be doing. Every household should be working on a way to end white supremacy. It should be the de facto ideology in all of us. I walk into certain Black homes and it is ridiculously Christian. You see the paintings of Jesus and all this. And I ask them, who are they? And they say, we're a family of Christians. But what they should be saying is that we are a family of Black people dedicated to the end and the white supremacy and the liberation of our people. That's what they should say. That's what we all should say. That's who we are. The dark days are coming, and they're actually upon us. They want to wipe us off the planet. They're going to do it by hook or crook. And we won't see it coming because they're going to do the micro steps. If you get an opportunity, please donate to the channel. Hit the like button. This is Kasak Ma Keperu, son of Ma'an Tahuti. Ma'at is the beautiful goddess Heteru. Until my next video, Amun Ra.